Verse 292. Prajna with me is of three kinds. Mind is not born of the elements. Mind is nowhere to be seen. Mind is not born of the visible world. Therefore, mind is not visible. So Prajna is wisdom, the wisdom of the Buddha. It's transcendental insight. Insight into how things really are. And the Buddha is saying here that there's prajnas of three kinds. And I'm going to assume that the three clauses after this statement refer to the three kinds of prajna. And these statements are to do with mind, mind with a capital M. This mind with a capital M is realization itself. And this realization, as we're told in the first phrase after the statement about prajna, is not born of the elements. In other words, it has got absolutely nothing to do with what is going on out there. Now, does this mean that it's something separate from everything that's going on out there? Now, this is a dangerous question, because what we're doing now is getting caught up in philosophizing. And these teachings, contrary to appearances, are not about philosophizing. The teachings that are presented in these videos are a practical teaching. Enlightenment practice is a practice. And we've got to be careful about any tendency to regard it as something else. I bought a book recently. I'm not sure if it was a good idea. It's called The Two Truths Debate by an ex-Tibetan monk, now a professor in the University of Tasmania. So what are these two truths? Well, the two truths are, in terms of the verse here, are mind with a capital M and the elements. These are the two truths. We often talk about one of them as being delusion, but it's the one that's in our face. It's the one that we have to deal with all the time. It's got its own reality. So this book, I haven't looked at it in too much detail yet. I was hoping it would be helpful. But it's a book that was written for a PhD thesis, so it's been written in accordance with academic requirements, not the requirements of the spiritual practitioner. So I'm not sure how useful it is. You know, one of the questions that asked near the beginning is, what is divided into the two truths? What's the relationship between the two truths? And the author of this book, he's basically recounting the viewpoints of two Tibetan exponents of these two truths, Tsongkhapa and Gorampa. And apparently Tsongkhapa was at pains to stress the unity of these two truths, whereas Gorampa was at pains to stress a clear demarcation between these two truths. And the book's basically going into all this without really coming down on one side or the other. So what's the point? What's the point? We cut through all this by practicing. When you start talking about it, you start conceptualizing two truths, mind here and the elements everywhere else, as if they're two things and you're moving from one to the other. In practice though, there's only one thing going on. There's only one thing we need to be concerned with, and that's the attention. And the attention is what determines whether we're practicing enlightenment or not. We're practicing enlightenment when the attention is at rest in itself. We are not practicing enlightenment when the attention is caught up with something, when the attention is actually attending to something. And as soon as we're born, it's like we're on the edge of a vortex that sucks the attention in and continues to do so. The attention rarely gets an opportunity to realize its own nature. There are opportunities. We all have opportunities. We've probably all had many opportunities in our own lives to recognize the nature of the attention. And if we realize the nature of the attention, then this is transcendental insight, Prajna. So, the attention has got nothing to do with what it attends to. This is obvious. There's nothing in common between my attention and the video camera. There's nothing in common between my attention and this piece of paper. There's nothing in common between my attention and you, or anything. The attention has got nothing to do with any of this stuff. It's got nothing to do with any of the elements. It's got nothing to do with neurons, brains, bodies, or anything. The attention can be turned to all of these things. The attention can be turned to the elements, or it can rest in itself. Mind is nowhere to be seen. So there's nothing in the world, nothing in our small minds where we can find mind with a capital M. So it's something separate. It is not dependent on the brain. This is a limiting theory which we can go along with in conventional terms, but when you realize the nature of the attention, you have to step back from all of that. So this is something else. This is telling us that we have the option to step out from the mind, step out from the world, and realize the fundamental nature of the attention, because things only exist when we attend to them. We hypothesize they exist when we're not attending to them, but these are only hypotheses. It's a conceptual truth, but we're not concerned with conceptual truths. We're concerned with realization. Realization of or awareness of the awareness that's hearing this, of the awareness that's thinking, or not, as the case may be. So there's nothing in our minds, nothing in the world where it's worth looking. So this is the second kind of prajna. And we're told, therefore, mind is not visible. We cannot say what it is. Mind is not visible, nor is it apparent in any of the senses, nor is it there in our feelings or our thoughts. It's something else. And to get back to this two truths debate, the relation of it is similar to our relationship with our dreams. For the most part, we forget our dreams. When we're in a dream, it's what's real. Then we wake up from it. What's the relationship between our waking state and our dream state? Are they fundamentally distinct, or are they fundamentally the same? From a practical point of view, they're fundamentally distinct. But from a deeper point of view, they're both the working of consciousness, so they're no different. So it depends where you want to argue it from. But really, from a practical point of view, we make a total distinction between mind with a capital M and the world of the mind and the senses. From a realization point of view, we make no such distinction, because we're beyond all distinctions, and at this point we're beyond all philosophizing.